Good evening and welcome into a brand new edition of Crunch Time Nightly here on ASTV Productions. I am Michael Wags, Wagon Connect, joined alongside by my partner in crime tonight, Scott Tobin. It is Friday, so as you know, Joe Hamilton is out bowling the night away, hoping to raise that average of his, and he'll definitely let us know what that average is come tomorrow. All right, Scott, how have you enjoyed today? It's been a beautiful day outside. No rain. That's a few days ago. You got baseball, you've got football, you've got basketball, you got hockey. You have so much stuff going on right now. But how was your day today, and what are you looking forward to this weekend?
It was a good day, man. I got outside. I had a little free time this afternoon. I actually did a little barbecuing, sat outside. It was nice. Although I do have a complaint with Mother Nature. We've had crappy weather this past week off and on. It's really nice this weekend while the Cardinals are out of town. They come back on Monday, and it's supposed to be high 50s, low 60s, and rain Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Can we please have some decent weather for a baseball game? Because it's been cold at Busch Stadium pretty much every night.
And working there and all of that, you want to be able to dress nice in shorts and a T-shirt and just really experience what baseball should really be about. But yeah, crappy weather. And it seems like the last week or so, it's either been really, really chilly and rainy or nice, but super windy. Like you can't enjoy either or. It's like you can't enjoy the nice cool without the rain, but you can't enjoy the nice heat without the freaking wind. It's just, come on, get on track, Mother Nature.
Yep, it's spring. And tomorrow it might push the record. They're saying we could get close to 90 tomorrow.
Whew. Yeah, let's let that happen after 2:00, after I'm off work and back home in my nice air-conditioned basement. I'll be fine with that, but not when I'm at work. I mean, come on. I work mostly right inside a drive-through window. I don't want that kind of heat.
Yeah, working in a restaurant when it's hot is never fun.
Oh, no. I mean, at least we've been lucky enough that we can wear shorts, especially because most of our play is outside now. We're not going to basically make our team wear long black pants, dress pants outside in this heat and go take hundreds of orders every hour and try to stay upright. So, yeah, we've at least progressed that far. Still got a little ways to go, but we're getting there. We're getting there. All right, let's jump right into this. The NFL draft has moved on to day 2. There's a lot of stuff still to talk about. We're going to recap a little bit of day 1 because we were on air last night through about pick 16, 17, somewhere in that area, and we didn't really get a chance to talk about some of the other moves that were made. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, number 1, we knew that. We knew the Zach Wilson thing was going to happen. The Trey Lance thing kind of came out of nowhere when it came to San Francisco. Everybody else kind of fell generally where we thought they were going to fall. Mac Jones going to New England, that was a big, big move. We didn't expect Mac Jones to fall that far. We actually thought maybe the Patriots are going to move up, but they didn't have to, and they still got the quarterback of the future. But I want to kind of talk a little bit more about the latter half of the draft because we had some guys go that kind of drew a little bit of eyebrow raising. We talked a little bit about Pittsburgh needing to draft a running back. They do. They go ahead and get Najee Harris out of Alabama. You thought that was a great, perfect fit for Harris and the Steelers. Tell me a little bit about why you thought that was the case.
He's a big physical back. He's kind of more in the style of the old Jerome Bettis days in Pittsburgh, where he's kind of a bruising running back, although he's got a little bit more speed than Bettis. But, he just kind of fits that mold of the old Steelers running backs, the Franco Harris, the Jerome Bettis, that type of back. So I just think he's going to fit in perfectly in Pittsburgh. And he can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. So he is a dual threat as well.
And that's something they really, really need is, obviously the last couple of years, the running back position has kind of declined, not mainly because the backs were bad. It just seems like they kind of went away from that. They've had to deal with the Ben Roethlisberger injury as well. So things kind of changed a little bit there the last couple of years. And really, I'll be perfectly honest. I thought last year, despite them starting off, 10-0, I didn't think their offense really clicked a whole lot last year. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster didn't really have the year that we thought he was going to have. He had a couple of guys definitely step up, but it was kind of one at a time. Nothing really was cohesive, yet they went 10-0 to start the season. I never thought they really got going. Now you got a running back that can actually make this more of a two-dimensional team. Last year, they were kind of one-dimensional. You see that being the case come the fall this year?
Yeah, I think that's a big move for them. Although, a lot of people were criticizing, and I can kind of see this. A lot of people really kind of tore into that pick because they thought the Steelers needed to improve their offensive line. So, that's something that, you would have thought they would have addressed, and maybe they do that tonight, although jumping the gun a little bit, although they drafted a receiving tight end in the second round. So they didn't address the offensive line at all. So it'll be interesting, but they're definitely trying to give Ben some more weapons to see if they can make one more run offensively. So it's going to be interesting to see what that Steelers do, because that's going to be a very, very tough AFC North.
It is. And speaking of not addressing needs, we have to go to Green Bay. Yes, you've got the Aaron Rodgers situation, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit because more stuff came out today that may or may not happen. I think this is all a lot of posturing, but we'll get to that in a minute. But year in and year out, it seems like, and Joe will speak to this every single show, Aaron Rodgers is always asking for help. He's asking for weapons. He's asking for a guy that can come in and be someone important. And going into this draft, you're sitting here hearing all these rumors about Rodgers wanting to get out. And the reasoning behind that, a lot of it is because he's not getting the weapons he feels he deserves. Well, if you're trying to entice Aaron Rodgers to change his mind, to keep him here, at least to keep him in a happy mindset this year, you've got the pick at number 29, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, some running backs have been taken. The really, really good wide receivers have been taken, but there's still a lot of talent on the board. You have to sit there and think, okay, Green Bay is going to go out there and get somebody, whether it's for Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love or whoever else is going to be the quarterback the next couple of years. They're going to go out and get somebody that's going to make an impact. They draft a cornerback out of Georgia, Eric Stokes. What is going on in Green Bay?
That's a really good question. Not only did they draft a quarterback, they reached for a quarterback that most people had going in the second or third round. What that says to me is, despite what the Packers are saying, what they've told us in the last couple of days, that Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback of the future and they're going to do what they can to help him. What this says to me is they know that Aaron Rodgers is gone. He's going to be gone, and they just are moving on, looking to the future, and they're like, okay, we're going to get rid of you, and here's what we need to do as a franchise to move on. And so I think that move and the move they made in the second round, again, jumping ahead, they drafted a center today. They have a center. They drafted a backup center in the second round. It's basically like they're like, okay, Aaron, you don't want to be here? We're going to have the worst draft possible so that you really, really don't want to be here.
It's baffling to me. The fact that this has happened not once, but now this is the second time. You had the Brett Favre situation, and now you've got the Aaron Rodgers situation. It absolutely blows my mind that a franchise like that can have this sort of just downfall, essentially, when it comes to star guys. And I get it. It's Green Bay. It's not necessarily about the stars. It's a blue-collar kind of team that's owned by the fans, that kind of stuff. That it makes sense. But even the fans are sitting there saying, why are you not getting this guy help? We want these guys to be here. They were in love with Brett Favre. They were in love with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I just don't understand how that is how things work. And granted, we had our own issues here in St. Louis with the ownership that we've had as far as Stan Kroenke was concerned. But this is different. I mean, this isn't basically saying F you to the city. This is saying F you to the fans, because you've got fans that want to support and like a specific player, and yet you're setting him up to fail. And then essentially the fans are either going to turn on you or they're going to turn on Rodgers.
Well, and you got to remember that the fans of Green Bay own that team. The fans are minority owners in the Packers. I think it comes down to, I think it comes down to the fact that the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and that franchise is just that fractured. And we've been hearing this for a couple of years now. It's not new news. For everything we hear, Aaron Rodgers is a pretty horrible person to be around. That most of the players don't really like him. The organization doesn't really like him. The guy we see in the State Farm commercials and the Aaron Rodgers in real life apparently are nowhere close to the same thing. And I think that's where it's gotten. I think they're just sick of him and they're ready for him to go. Honestly, you hear some reports that the Packers went to him early in the offseason and told him they were going to trade him.
Yep.
Then they backed off. They're denying that. Some teams, the 49ers said that they talked to the Packers about a trade last week. The Packers are saying that's not true. Mark Schlereth at Denver today reported that trade's as close to being done to Denver as a trade can possibly be. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But at this point, with what the Packers have done in the last 2 days, I'll be shocked now if Aaron Rodgers is a Packer, because we heard today that he was actually telling teammates that even if they don't trade him, he doesn't plan on being in Green Bay. So I think the Packers either do trade him in the next couple of days, or they call his bluff and say, "Hey, you don't want to be here? Retire."
Well, that was the thing I
think that's where we're going. Sorry, Wex.
No, it's okay. I think that was the thing that was floated out today, was the retirement thing, and I get it. I do. He wants to move on a little bit. Obviously, he has the Jeopardy guest hosting gig that he wants to try and become full time. Yes, he wants to probably go more to a coastal team, more so the West Coast, maybe get into that Hollywood thing like LeBron has done. Obviously, being in the State Farm commercials and that sort of stuff, that's the direction he wants to go. He would forfeit $23 million if he retired. And that's where you're getting to that who's going to call whose bluff. Is Green Bay going to sit there and say, look, we're done with all this. You want to retire? Good. We're set up to move on and go forward. But is Aaron Rodgers really willing to let go of 23? He's made a lot of money. He's made a lot of money and still will make a lot of money. But will he sit there and forfeit that $23 million to say, okay, I'm done. I'm retiring. If you're not going to trade me, I'm not going to play for you. And then when his contract is up, he comes back with another team. I mean, I don't know if he would do that, but this is going to be a really, really intriguing game of chicken, to say the least.
It will. The only thing that I can say that Aaron Rodgers probably has in his back pocket at this point is that Alex Trebek apparently made between $15 and $20 million a year hosting Jeopardy. So, maybe Aaron Rodgers, maybe that's what he's using. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is saying, you know what, if you don't want me, I can go do television, not tear my body up, and make almost as much money as I was making playing football. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't see him retiring. I think he still has that fire. I mean, he played a great year last year, obviously. He had one of the best years of his career. Yeah. So I think he still wants to play, but I really don't know. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens in the next 48 hours or so.
It's going to be very interesting. And one other note from the first round, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, they drafted Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall, but with the 25th pick, they picked up his teammate and buddy, Travis Etienne. Were you shocked that was the play that they went there? Or is it just more so a matter of just getting familiarity for Trevor Lawrence so that when he gets out there, it's, hey, I'm turning around and handing the ball off to a guy I know versus turning around and handing off to a guy I don't know and getting the tendencies down. Like, it's a familiarity thing just to get him ready for the NFL.
Yeah, and I mean, everything we've heard is that Jacksonville has been working their offensive game plan with Trevor Lawrence for the last couple of months. So, maybe this has been the plan all along. I mean, you never know if Etienne's going to be there, but maybe that was Jacksonville's plan this whole time is, hey, here's our game plan. We're going to bring Travis Etienne in as well, if possible. And that's my favorite pick of the first round, to be honest with you, because I think he can be such a home run hitter and such a weapon to put those two guys together. And I mean, we've seen what they've done in Clemson the last 4 years. I mean, I don't think Jacksonville could have done any better in that first round.
I agree 100%. They definitely got an A grade when it comes to the first round. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Crunch Time. When we come back, we're going to dive into the second and third rounds that are going on right now in the NFL draft. So make sure you stick around here for more Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. Wags and Scott breaking down the NFL draft. Moving into the second round, obviously still some talent left there. The Jaguars take cornerback Tyson Campbell with their first pick in the second round, and then they shore up the back end even more with the safety Andre Cisco out of Syracuse in the third round. So they're really doing the most with the picks that they've got. They're shoring up the spots that they really need to shore up. and they're really trying to make a complete team under Urban Meyer. And I was listening to the pregame on the draft today about Urban Meyer's decision to come back and all the research and conversations he had with former players and coaches and all the connections that he made. I'm always skeptical of college coaches making that jump to the pros, especially good ones. You saw what happened to Nick Saban. Yes, obviously the Jimmy Johnsons are few and far between, but the planning and the research and the diligence that Urban Meyer has done before taking this position in Jacksonville, I'm actually a little optimistic that he might be able to make this work. What are your thoughts on Urban Meyer?
It's going to be really interesting. Like you said, we've seen a lot of really great college coaches not be able to make it in the NBA. Nick Saban, for one. Even a guy like Pete Carroll. It was his second time in the league before he actually succeeded. Urban Meyer's a good coach. It's going to be interesting. I will say that. Jacksonville's, like I said, they've got a good start, and they've got some young players on defense. He could make it work. It'll be interesting to see if he's there for the long run, though, because we've seen Urban Meyer take jobs and then health issues or whatever, he's only there for a couple of years and then he's gone. So that will be interesting as well to see how invested he truly is in this job.
Yeah, I think he has to get past I'm going to probably lose 10 games and be okay with that. That's one of the things they pointed out was that he's not used to losing that much. So if he can get to the point where he's like, okay, yes, I may lose 10 or 11 games, but I'm seeing progress with the players and the team, is he going to be okay with that? So that's going to definitely be something to watch. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that second round. A couple of names that I'll throw out there. Asante Samuel Jr., the cornerback from Florida State, goes to the Chargers. I think that's a really, really good move right there. And then our boy from Mizzou, sticking around Missouri, Nick Bolton, going to the Kansas City Chiefs at pick number 58. That's a hell of a move for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Big move for the Chiefs. They needed to get a linebacker. They definitely needed to improve their linebacker depth, so that's huge. And to keep him in state is great. I'm going to tell you right now, though, in that second round, the Cleveland Browns got the steal of the draft because in the first round they went with the cornerback. They addressed one of their needs in getting Greg Newsome. In that second round, they got the linebacker out of Notre Dame, who most people thought was if not the best linebacker in this draft, the second best linebacker in this draft. They got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with the 52nd pick in the draft. He's rated as the 12th best player going into this draft, and that's a huge need for the Browns. I said this a couple of weeks ago to Joe Wags. I went out on a limb, kind of like Joe did last year. I'm picking the Browns to go to the Super Bowl.
Okay, it's not a bad pick. They were close this past year. I mean, a couple of bounces go their way, and they could have been there. And I'm always a proponent of, especially for young teams, you've got to lose in order to learn how to win. And I think this year the Browns did enough to at least learn how to progress in the playoffs and maybe make a Super Bowl. May not win a Super Bowl. They may still have to lose in the Super Bowl in order to win. And the NFL is a lot different. Football is a lot different than those series sports like the NHL and Major League Baseball. But I think they do. They've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of experience. And now they've suffered defeats in a way that makes them go, okay, we know what it took to get here. Now we know what it takes to get over that hump. So I could see that being a great pick this year. I don't know if I'll go that far, but you know what? There's still a whole offseason to get through and some more moves to be made.
Well, and the reason I say that, the Browns gave the Chiefs as tough of a run in the playoffs as anybody, and their defense was kind of the weak link. You look at what the Browns have done this offseason. Well, for one thing, you have a healthy Odell Beckham Jr., and then when you look what they did in free agency, they went out and they shored up their defense. They got the safety from the Rams that comes in and helps shore up the secondary. You go out and get Jadeveon Clowney. You bring him in to add to Myles Garrett as your pass rushers. They just, after releasing him earlier in the week, they re-signed Sheldon Richardson today, so there's your defensive tackle. And then in the draft, you go shore up your quarterback situation and your linebackers. I mean, this team really doesn't have a hole now. They're going to be really, really tough.
And it's kind of unlike the Browns to identify needs and then go after and get the best guys for that need. And that's another huge, huge change of scenery, in a sense, for the Browns. They are now knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. My best friend lives in Baltimore and is a diehard Browns fan, and actually hates he lives in Baltimore and hates the Ravens because they used to be the Browns and moved to Baltimore. But he loves this Browns team, and he's been texting me for the last 2 days, going crazy after every draft pick because he's so excited. So, and he's probably watching the show right now. So, Rob, if you are, man, I know how excited you are, Baltimore, buddy.
And you know what? Maybe we got to get out there and catch like a Baltimore-Cleveland game at some point just to really go nuts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Absolutely.
I've only been to one NFL game. It was a Rams-Packers game when the Rams were terrible. So I do need to see some good football. Definitely, for sure. At the end of the second round, the Tampa Bay Bucks make their pick, and they go with Kyle Trask out of Florida, the quarterback. Obviously, Tom Brady's going to be there next year, maybe another year after that. Kyle Trask, he had a bit of a checkered career at Florida, but do you see him being a viable quarterback in the NFL, and does playing under Brady help get him to that point?
So are you telling me that Blaine Gabbert's not the heir apparent to Tom Brady in Tampa? Is that what this means?
I mean, I hope, because it's a Mizzou guy, and you'd love to see a Mizzou guy succeed, but yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect spot for a guy like Trask to go. He stays in Florida, and you're going to learn under, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks in league history, as much as it hurts me to say that. But yeah, I mean, that's the perfect place for a guy like that to go learn.
It's going to be interesting to say the least. Yeah, and then a bit of a quarterback run after that pick. You had Cisco at the top of the third round. Then Kellen Mond goes to Minnesota after they trade up. And then Davis Mills out of Stanford goes to the Texans. Obviously, Minnesota is looking for the replacement for Kirk Cousins at some point. Kellen Mond had a good career at Texas A&M. Another one of those kind of run and gun kind of quarterbacks. Is he a guy that you could see making in the NFL as well?
That's one of those guys, again, that if you give him a couple of years and let him sit and learn, then I think maybe he's got a shot. I think the most interesting pick of all of those is the fact with their very first pick in the draft in the third round, the Houston Texans take a quarterback out of Stanford. What does that tell you right there? That the Texans are going quarterback with their first pick of the third round.
It's telling me that either the shit's getting ready to hit the fan when it comes to Deshaun Watson, or they really truly are going to move on from him very, very soon. One way or the other, Deshaun Watson's not going to be the quarterback in Houston for very much longer.
No, I don't think so either. Again, that's another thing that, while we haven't talked about it a lot, I mean, there's still a chance that Deshaun Watson is able to play this season. And like you said, there's still a chance that Houston trades him.
Yeah.
I mean, they could trade him. They could release him if they really wanted to. They could cut him. They'd have to eat the salary. They'd have to eat the salary for this year. But they could cut him, and then anybody could go sign Deshaun Watson. So, there's still a lot of intrigue right there as well.
That there is, and this offseason's nowhere near being done. Some more picks that happened in the third round. A little surprise, Joseph Ossai, the fourth-ranked defensive end, goes to Cincinnati at pick 69. And looking at Cincinnati, I got to go back to the second round real quick to see if they made a pick in that round. They did take an offensive tackle, Jackson Carmine, out of Clemson, but it's Cincinnati. You got to do more to protect Joe Burrow. And yet, of their three picks so far, just one offensive tackle. You talk about Cleveland finally getting on program. Is Cincinnati still way off, or what?
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I would have gone with the offensive lineman with that first pick. I would have gone and gotten Sewell from Oregon. They decided to go reunite Joe Burrow with his star wide receiver from LSU and try to recreate that. I know Burrow had been pushing them in that direction. So does Joe Burrow have that much influence over what the Bengals do as far as drafting? And if they do, is that an issue that a rookie can help determine how you're going to make your picks?
Well, if he does have that much power and he doesn't sit there and say, I want to be protected, get me an offensive line, then that's a whole other question too, because if he wields that much power and says, look, I'm great running for my life and having shredded knees, just give me a receiver I can throw to that I'm comfortable with, that's another question that you have to ask and go, What kind of mindset do you have if you want to have shredded knees just to throw to a buddy of yours?
Yeah, I think if that's the case, I think somebody in that organization has to overrule Joe and say, "Hey, man, I know you want to try to set records like you did at LSU, but we got to keep you upright and able to play for the next decade." So, yeah, like I said last night, there's a reason the Bengals haven't been able to get this right for a long, long time, and there's another example of it.
That's very, very true. Okay, before we get to our break, who right now, I mean, it's still early. Obviously, you're just going off of past performance, but who in your mind has been the team or teams that have done the best in the draft so far this year? I think you are going to say Cleveland is one of them, but who else do you think did very, very well, at least with what they've picked so far?
I had 5 teams that I had as the what I think are the best. I went with Cleveland, Jacksonville. I really like what the Chargers have done. I like what the Giants have done, and I like what they've only had 1 pick at this point, but I like what the Bears did, going out and getting Justin Fields. So those would be my 5 winners at this point.
All really, really good choices. Yeah, I like Jacksonville too. I like what Cleveland has done. You know what? Just because they've just been so bad as of late, I'm kind of okay with what the Jets have done. Getting Zach Wilson, getting Elijah Moore, making a couple of trades as well to acquire some more picks. It's not going to be an instant win for them, but if these guys hit, they could have done really, really well in this draft. So I like what the Jets have done. And I know I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I do also like what the Patriots have done. Going out there and getting a quarterback like Mac Jones and then going out and getting Barmore as well. They've done their diligence. Yes, it's Alabama heavy, but obviously there's the coaching tree and all the connections there as well. So it makes sense. But I do like what the Jets and the Patriots have also done so far.
Yeah, I like the Patriots. The Jets, Zach Wilson just worries me. Of all the quarterbacks, he's the guy that I'm really afraid might end up being the bust. And, the fact that he's going to the Jets, and we've seen so many quarterbacks get drafted by that franchise and turn out to be busts. Some of them because of injury and things like that. But, Zach Wilson just hasn't played really tough competition yet. Playing in BYU, he's had a pretty easy schedule. And you look at his body size, and I'm just afraid that he's not physically going to be able to hold up because the Jets' offensive line's not great yet. So I'm just afraid he's going to get beat up early and then may flame out.
I'll be perfectly honest. Going into this draft, I had not even really known anything about Zach Wilson. I didn't even know what his statistics were. I didn't even know what he looked like. So the fact that he was a complete unknown to me, I knew more about Trey Lance than I did about Zach Wilson. So that's what I'm saying. If they hit on these guys, that's great. That means they did a really good job. But like you said, because they are the Jets, more than likely they're going to flame out. But I'm going to try and be optimistic for Mike Greenberg and all those other Jets fans out there. I believe in you. I believe in you. And thank God you fired Adam Gase.
Yep. Real quick before we go to break, Wags, have you seen that Zach Wilson's mom is really being brought up on Twitter and everything? She's really trending because Zach Wilson's mom, when I saw the picture of her, I thought it was his girlfriend. She looks the same age as he does, and she's pretty hot.
Oh, boy. That should be fun, and going to New York, even better. Wow. I could probably, who knows? Maybe I could have a 20-something-year-old son. We'll see. Stepson. All right, enough football talk. We're going to take a quick break here and come back and talk a little baseball out on the other side of the break, so make sure you stick around for more Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And you know what? In the break, I had to go look it up. And wow, is that truly his mother?
That I had to double check like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I can see why people think it's his girlfriend. And oh my, Zach Wilson, have your mom give me a call. Wow.
Right?
Unbelievable. That I didn't even know that. I didn't see that trending last night when I was on Twitter or anything like that. But you know what? Good job. Oh boy. All right. Let's talk some baseball and get our minds off of that if we can. The Cardinals were in action tonight in Pittsburgh. A very good game by the St. Louis Cardinals. You had some history tonight, and it included one Matt Carpenter. Scott, tell us a little bit about the history that Carp made with his pinch hit home run tonight.
Yeah, if people don't know it, Matt Carpenter, again tonight, came off the bench, hit a pinch hit 3-run homer. He became the first Cardinal in history to hit pinch hit home runs in back-to-back games, and the first player in Major League Baseball since 1905 to hit pinch hit 3-run homers in back-to-back games. So 116 years since it's been done, and it's Matt Carpenter. I mean, you have to feel good for the guy. I mean, he's finally seen a little bit of success because we know how hard Matt Carpenter does work.
Yeah, we really do. And it's been a struggle watching him the last couple of years, flail away at pitches and hit into the shift and just be completely unlucky. So the fact that he's starting to see a little bit more success and a little bit more luck the last couple of games especially has been good. I mean, he raised his average to 116 tonight. Obviously not great, but you were talking before the show about how if he can come off the bench and produce like this, he can eventually or essentially have 18 home runs and 60 RBIs on the year. And I think most people would take that from a Matt Carpenter off the bench because that means he's coming in and being clutch in situations where you need it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can have that, if he can come in, every once in a while when you need to give Nato or Goldie a day off and fill in there, and then you have him as that left-handed threat off the bench against a right-handed pitcher, I mean, that's huge. The Cardinals haven't had a guy like that had that power threat off the bench consistently since a guy like probably Craig Paquette when he was here, and we used to be that guy that would come off the bench and give you 15 or 20 home runs as a role player, early in the 2000s. So, I mean, it would be huge for them to have that.
That it certainly would. They've been searching for a bench bat for a very, very long time. And when you get an internal option like that, that's even better because then you're not having to spend money or picks that you don't really want to spend or prospects to bring a guy in. So that would be incredibly huge. Harrison Bader is back tonight as well, and that's going to allow you to shift a guy like Carpenter to the bench because then Tommy Edman moves back to second base where he's a little bit better defensively. Tommy Edman, by the way, hitting 274 this year. That's really kind of burst my bubble as far as him not being good. So I'm very, very happy about that. But Harrison Bader comes back tonight. Adds a little bit more speed to that lineup, which it wasn't really lacking because Tyler O'Neill's been producing there as well. But Bader back 1 for 4, did strike out a couple of times, but not your typical Harrison Bader strikeouts. Tell me a little bit about what you saw in his return from his injury.
Yeah, I mean, he had a hit the first time he batted, he did strike out on 3 nasty sliders, which is something that we've seen Harrison Bader have issues with. The second time he came up, he actually took one of those sliders and hit it into left field for a base hit. And then the other 2 at-bats he had were pretty good at-bats. The one time he lined out to the center fielder, and then his last at-bat, he had 2 pitches that almost hit him on the inside corner that he had to spin away from it. For some reason, the umpire called them both strikes. And then the next pitch, the guy painted the black on the outside corner and just froze him, which that's going to happen to anybody at that point because you're worried about inside at that point. But he looked better. He took better at-bats. His eye looked better. And, if we can get him going, and Tyler O'Neill seems to be back to the Tyler O'Neill he was this spring. He had 3 hits tonight. That's 2 out of the last 3 days that he's had multiple hits. And he's hit 4 home runs this week since he came off the disabled list. So he's already got 5 home runs. He stole 2 bases tonight. I mean, if Tyler O'Neill can be that power speed threat in left field, you have Carlson in right field, and Bader's decent in center, your outfield offense is going to be okay.
That it certainly is. And on the flip side, you've got a couple of guys struggling. That one has been struggling all year. Another guy that's been struggling as of late. You've still got Paul DeYoung sitting there batting 165, another 0 for 4 night to night. But a guy that's starting to get a little bit worried about is Paul Goldschmidt. He's hitting 214 right now. He was 0 for 4 last night, 0 for 5 tonight. He's a guy that's going to get his base hits. He's going to get his average where it needs to be. But is there even just a little bit of worry at all that he's batting so low in the 200s right now?
A little bit, just because, we know he had the back issue a couple of weeks ago that made him miss opening day at Busch. So you wonder if that's bothered him a little bit. And he's chasing a lot. Tonight, the strikeouts he was chasing balls that were way out of the strike zone. The only reason that I'll say I'm not too worried about it is if you look at Paul Goldschmidt's career, April is always his worst month. He heats up as you get into May and then June, and then the second half he's usually on fire. So because this is kind of what he does, I'm not too worried about it. And while we talk about it, his average is down. He does have 14 or 15 RBIs and 3 home runs. So he has produced. It's just been sporadic. So I think we'll get the Goldie that we're used to as the weather warms up and he gets going.
And we saw that when he first came here to St. Louis as well. His first couple of months weren't great. People were thinking the big contract or the move or what have you. But it's his MO. The first month or so, he does struggle a little bit. But at the end of the season, his average is there. His home runs are there. His RBIs are there. Now that he's got guys like Carlson and Arenado around him that are going to give him a little bit more protection, he's going to get there. And speaking of Nolan Arenado, a couple of doubles tonight, a couple of RBIs. So he is hitting again after the over 4 night as well. So a 7-3 victory for the Cardinals. And like you were telling me before the start of the show, they're sitting at 14-12. If San Diego loses tonight, the Cardinals are the same, right around the same record as the Padres. And the Cardinals will be a game better than the Padres. And if the Dodgers lose tonight, they're only going to be a couple games back of them, and they'll have been 3-8 in their last 11. So all this worrying about the Cardinals and the struggles that they've had, you made a great point. It's like it's kind of all for naught because right now they're still there with some of the cream of the crop. Now, it's still early in the season, time for that cream to separate and rise to the top. But at this point right now, this team is finding ways to win despite some of the struggles that they're having, and it's only going to make them better as the year goes on.
Yeah, it really is. You're going to get healthier. We've finally got our outfield, the starting outfield that we thought we were going to have the whole season. We got him back today. You still haven't had Michaelis. KK's not looked great. He had one good start. The other two haven't been good. So those guys are going to round into form. And like you said, you look around the league. We talked about the Dodgers and Padres. Go look at the National League East. The Braves and Phillies are tied for first place. They're under 500. The Braves were losing again tonight. They're going to be 12-14. I think they both were losing. I think they'll both be 12-14 and tied for first place in the East. So if the Cardinals were in that division, they'd be 2 games up right now.
Yeah, and actually they the Phillies won, the Braves lost. Let's see. I'm sorry. The Braves are losing 13-5. They are going to get destroyed. The Phillies won tonight against the Mets. So the East now is at Philly and Atlanta are both 12-13, and the Mets are at 9-10. All 3 tied for first place, percentage points apart. And the Nationals are at 10-12 and sit a half a game back, whereas the Marlins are 11-14 and just 1 game back. So yeah, it's just unbelievable the fact that the East is that bad.
And I'm not sure it won't stay like that all year because those teams are all so even that they may just beat each other up so bad that you may see somebody win that division that is only a couple of games over 500.
Very, very true. Very true. And, we were talking about the Dodgers here. They're playing the Brewers this weekend, and obviously Milwaukee won last night. Milwaukee's up 2-1 now, going into the bottom of the 8th as well. The Brewers are dealing with some injuries. Obviously, Christian Yelich is still battling something. They had to put their best pitcher, Corbin Burns, on the IL. So they're missing a lot of guys, but they seem to still be finding a way to win. Milwaukee's going to be a tough out in the NL Central. They're going to be the team that the Cardinals are going to be battling with all year for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we expected. It was going to be those two teams really fighting it out. To this point, Milwaukee's pitching has been a whole lot better than I expected. I'm still not sure that their pitching's going to hold up all year long. And we'll see what Christian Yelich is when he comes back, and Lorenzo Keen's battling issues. And so we'll see if they're able to hold up. But, yeah, I think that's the team in this division when you look at it that's going to give the Cardinals fits. And can somebody explain to me how the Cubs are so bad? I mean, this team, they did score some runs today, but, like, the 4 games before this, they'd scored, like, 4 runs in the 4 games. They just can't hit.
They really can't, and that's surprising because they have guys that can hit, and I'm baffled by it as well. We thought the pitching was going to be their biggest issue this year, and it still is an issue, but the offense just is not doing anything. And you're expecting them to heat up at some points, and they probably will, especially as it gets warmer in Chicago, but I'm still worried that the Cubs won't be a team that people will recognize, and I think they're going to start selling off here quicker than we think, especially if we get into, late May, early June. If they're still struggling and still sitting well under 500, you might see them start shipping out guys a little bit earlier than anticipated, and that could change the entire complexion of the NL Central as well. And we do want to shout out Joey Votto, became the 3rd ever Red to hit 300 home runs. That guy, you can hate him all you want for being a Red, but he's a consummate pro. He's been a guy that has just been consistent, a pain in your ass when you're playing against him, but a guy you want to have on your team. Joey Votto, congratulations, man. 300 home runs as a Red. That's a huge accomplishment and well-deserved. Yeah,
very good player, like you said, and a guy that has killed the Cardinals multiple times over the years. So
That he has. Running down the scoreboard tonight in Major League Baseball, Yankees a 10-0 victory over the Tigers. The Nationals a 2-1 winner over the Marlins in 10 innings. John Lester get his first start as a Washington National, went 5 scoreless innings, looked pretty good there. Phillies beat the Mets 2-1. The Reds an 8-6 victory over the Cubs. The Astros 9-2 over the Rays. In action right now, 13-5 Blue Jays over the Braves in the bottom of the 8th. Red Sox a 6-1 lead over the Rangers as that's wrapping up bottom 9. Indians 5, White Sox 3. The Twins 5-1 over the Royals. The Dodgers trailing the Brewers 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th. Orioles 2-1 over the A's. Rockies are trailing the Diamondbacks 2-1. Angels 2-1 over the Mariners. And the Giants and Padres tied at 1 apiece. The Giants, man, they're something to be reckoned with right now. They got the lowest ERA for starting pitchers by a long while in Major League Baseball. It's not going to last, but yeah, this is a pretty good team right now.
Yeah, those veteran pitchers that the Giants have kind of found the fountain of youth. You look at what Kevin Gausman's doing, Johnny Cueto, Jeff Samardzija, these guys that have really struggled since they've been in San Francisco are all pitching pretty well right now.
That they are, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that affects the trade deadline when we get there. Obviously, still a long ways away, but some of these teams that you thought might have been out of contention might still be there, so it could prove very, very interesting when it comes to that. All right, we're going to take another break here on Crunch Time, come back, talk a little bit about the playoff races in the NHL and the NBA, and dive a little bit into what is actually going to happen in the NBA, because they've got this fun little play-in that they're going to be doing here as far as the tournament's concerned. So we're going to talk a little bit about that next here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions.
Hey Crunch Time fans, my name is Graham Forsyth. I'm the host of Coffee with Graham and the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. On Coffee with Graham, I talk to athletes, coaches, and whoever else involved in the amateur sports scene in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And on the Prospect Show, I talk to the best young hockey prospects from around North America. You can catch all the coverage on ASTV Productions. You can catch Coffee with Graham on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And for the Prospect Show, that show airs every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Hope to see you there. Have a good one.
And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. Once again, make sure you check out all the great shows on ASTV. A lot of great insight and a lot of great shows that we bring to you day in and day out. All right, let's talk a little bit about the NHL and NBA playoff races. We'll start in the NHL because the Blues are near and dear to our hearts, obviously, and they are pushing hard to get into the playoffs. A big-time victory last night in overtime over the Minnesota Wild put them 5 points clear of the Arizona Coyotes with 2 games in hand, though. So still a little bit of wiggle room for the Blues to kind of mess around there with. The Coyotes in action tonight against Vegas. The Coyotes are up 1-0 after 1. The Avalanche 2-0 up on the Sharks. The Ducks a 1-0 lead over the Kings. And then the Canadiens take out the Jets 5-3. Some teams have clinched. You got Carolina, Florida, Tampa Bay in the Central, Washington and Pittsburgh in the East, Toronto in the North, and then Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota in the West. A lot of other teams fighting for these spots. The best race I think we can sit there and say right now has got to be in the Central between Nashville and Dallas. Dallas has a game in hand on Nashville and trails them by just 2 points. So a couple of former Central Division foes going at it. This is the most wonderful time of the year when it comes to being a hockey fan for sure with these playoff races. Anything you're looking forward to as far as the end of the regular season coming up?
The Blues to keep playing well. Can I go with that one?
Yes, you can, because I'm right there with you.
That's the big one for me, man. I still hold my breath every time they play. I know they look like they're in pretty good shape right now, but I'm just holding my breath, hoping that we see this team that we've seen the last few nights keep playing for the next couple of weeks.
And that's the thing that really got me too, was it's 4 games. Yes, 2 of them against a good Colorado team, 2 of them against a decent Minnesota team. So it's nice to see they got the wins. It's nice to see the way they've gotten the wins. You know, one of them a come from behind victory against Minnesota. Last night they blew the lead, but still found a way to win in overtime. The games against Colorado were actually pretty dominant as well. So it looks like they're finding their game at the right time. Leadership is stepping up. Everything's kind of coming together. You got goaltenders that are playing decently enough. Bennington's looking a little bit more like his 2019 form than anything else. Ville Husso, not a stellar game last night, but a good game. He had a good game. A couple of screen goals that he definitely wishes he had back. He definitely slides a little bit too far going post to post. But overall, I'm comfortable with where this team is at. That being said, do I want to see them play Vegas in the first round? Hell no, because Vegas is a pretty damn good team. I think they've got our number. Colorado's a team I would definitely look at wanting to face. Now, Philip Grubauer did come back tonight for Colorado, and that's a huge, huge piece for them. Seeing Philip Grubauer versus Devin Dubnyk, 2 wildly different goaltenders. I'd much rather see Dubnyk. So if Grubauer is healthy and plays well, Colorado's a scary out as well. But I'm just like you. I want to see the Blues play well. I want to see them get into the playoffs and really just play better than they did in the bubble last year.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing. I want them to get in the playoffs, but I don't want them to get in the playoffs and then revert back to the team we've seen most of this season and get swept in the series or something. I want them to get to the playoffs and then actually play this style of hockey and look like a team that can actually compete.
Agreed, 100%. Quickly, though, the Kraken of Seattle made their final payment of the $650 million entry fee that they had to pay, and they are now officially the 32nd team in the NHL. And I'm a lifelong Blues fan, absolutely love them. But I tell you what, as soon as they release a jersey for the Kraken, I am getting my hands on one because that is a sick-looking logo, and the color scheme is just phenomenal. I'm excited about the Kraken. The expansion draft's coming up in July. I just kind of want to get your quick thoughts on a couple of guys that might be taken by the Seattle Kraken when that comes around. First off is with the Blues. Looking like all indications that a guy like Vince Dunn will probably be the guy that's exposed. But we put out there on our Blue Notes podcast the fact that maybe a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko is exposed to Seattle to see if they grab him. Mainly because of the price tag. I'm not saying we need to get rid of Vladimir Tarasenko, but in my estimation, it's twofold. Either the Kraken take him and you get that $7.5 million off the books, or they don't, and Tarasenko gets pissed off that he wasn't taken and comes out even better than he is looking recently, and you get a renewed Vladimir Tarasenko. What are your thoughts on exposing Tarasenko for that expansion draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do it. I don't think Seattle will take him because of that contract and the injury history. I just don't see them doing that. I guess my question is, if we're wrong and they do that and they take Tarasenko and Mike Hoffman leaves, then what do the Blues do offensively going into next season?
That's the big question. I mean, I almost feel like the only reason you would expose Tarasenko is if you have guys like Jaden Schwartz and Mike Hoffman locked up already, finding ways to get contracts done before that expansion draft rolls around. That would be one of the caveats, I think, to exposing him. You have those guys under contract, and then if he does get picked, you've got replacements there. But if he doesn't get picked, then you're just adding him back into the fold. And like I said, maybe he's a little bit more like, hey, I'm a good player. Why didn't you pick me? I'm going to go show you what you missed out on. That's kind of what I'm looking at, is almost like a shot across the bow. Not to say Tarasenko's been bad. He's been dealing with injuries and all that, but maybe a little bit of spark under his behind saying, hey, look, we exposed you. They didn't take you. What's that say? And then he comes out and goes, no, I'm going to show you. And all of a sudden puts the world on fire again.
Yeah, that would be the hope if you do that. Real quickly, do you think there's any chance that Mike Hoffman has any interest in even coming back here, knowing how most of this season's played out and him and Craig Berube not being on the same page?
It's a very interesting question, because I thought around the trade deadline, even before when he wasn't traded, I'm like, he probably isn't coming back. I don't think that's the case. But over the last week or two, seeing him, the way he's played, the way he's reacted before the last couple of weeks, this dude showed no emotion. Like, you would listen to him in interviews and he would sound disinterested. He'd sound a little pissed off, actually, that you were talking to him. But the last couple of weeks, the emotion he's shown on the ice, the excitement level, it almost feels like he's actually become a part of the team. And I wouldn't be shocked if he does decide to come back and stick around, because it does feel like he's now being used in the way that he should have been originally. And maybe that's Craig Berube just not really knowing where to fit him in it, because he had pretty much, it's the same thing with Justin Falk last year. You had pretty much the same team come back. How do you know where a guy like that's going to fit in without destroying the chemistry you've already built? So maybe it was just a matter of really finding the right grouping of guys to get him around. And now playing him with Thomas and Kyrou, he seems to be producing. He's the veteran guy on that line, and he's got playmakers around him that can feed him the puck and let him just do his thing. If he looks at it and goes, I'm going to get to play with those two guys for another full year, I could probably get another 30-goal season out of that. I say he might come back. It's very possible.
Okay. Another question I want to ask you real quick, and I heard Jeremy Rutherford talking about this, and I thought, I want to see what Wags thinks. Jeremy Rutherford was talking about the very real possibility that the Blues try to trade Torrey Krug this offseason, that he's just not right for this team. Does that surprise you, or do you think that's something they may look into?
I mean, it's not surprising. He hasn't been the guy they expected. I mean, I don't think he scored a goal in, a couple of months. So he's not been the offensive guy that they were looking to bring in to replace Alex Pietrangelo in that aspect. They were never bringing him in to be the defender that Alex Pietrangelo was, but they were bringing him in to be a power play quarterback, somebody that pumped goals in at least consistently. He's had opportunities, and I think if the right deal comes along, they would entertain it, but they also have to look no further than Justin Falk. I mean, Justin Falk was here last year and did not have a good season. Then he settled in, and look, he's the best guy. I mean, half of us wanted to expose him to Seattle and hope Ron Francis takes him. Now, July 21st rolls around, and we're like, screw you, Justin Falk's ours. So it may be, if the right deal comes along, I could see them making that move. It frees up money. They've got a plethora of defensemen behind these guys that have really shown that they can play, in Nico Mikkola. Jake Wallman's looked pretty good. You've still got Scotty Perunovich coming up as well, as among a couple other guys. So if the right deal comes along, I could see it, but you got to look at it and say maybe year two's better because he's fits and he's comfortable. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I don't see them actively going out there looking to shop him.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, what does that say if after 1 year you move Torrey Krug? Does that just say, scream, hey, not bringing Alex Pietrangelo back was such the wrong move?
No, not necessarily, because I get Doug Armstrong's point about not letting a guy hold a team hostage, and that's what a no movement clause does. It holds a team hostage. You cannot move that guy unless he is 100% totally committed to moving. So right. I don't think that's signaling anything. I think more than anything, it's just them going, hey, he's just not a fit for our system. They had a contract lined up, and he's here.
Okay. One more question for you. So Jaden Schwartz, we talked about the Blues needing to bring him back. If Jaden Schwartz says, hey, I want to come back, but I want a no movement clause, do the Blues do it? Or does Armstrong again say, nope, I don't do that, and see ya?
No, he doesn't. He does not give him a no movement clause. He says, see you later, bye. Jaden Schwartz is an Alex Steen type of blue guy and somebody that this team needs, but not in a no movement clause aspect. If he sits there and says that, he's gone, and I'm okay with that. But if he comes back at a slightly increased price, sign him up. I want him to be my Alex Steen for the next 5-6 years.
Okay. Just a couple of questions I've been wanting to run by you. We haven't had really a chance to talk about it in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, and it's going to be coming up here real soon. This off season is going to be here before we know it.
That's crazy, doesn't it? It seems like the season just started.
It does, and it'll be starting again a lot sooner than we expect as well. So, oh boy. Well, hey man, a good show tonight. I know we were going to talk a little bit about the NBA, but I think if we go down that rabbit hole, we go another hour, and I had to get up and work tomorrow. So, any final thoughts before we head out tonight?
No, good game from the Cardinals. Interesting news in the NFL. Some interesting draft picks. Lots of drama coming in the next couple of days in the NFL, so stay tuned to that. And try not to work too hard this weekend.
I will definitely try not to. So, all right, for Scott, I am Wags. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your night, and really have a great weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful, even if it is a little warm. So enjoy the Cardinals game and enjoy your weekend. See you next week here on Crunch Time.